Thank you very much, Sophia. Right, OK, now we have some live breaking news for you. I'm shocked, to be honest with you. I wasn't expecting this one. In the last few minutes, Nigel Farage has seemingly lost the support of Elon Musk. The Tesla and ex-CEO has said on his social media platform the following: the Reform Party needs a new leader. Farage doesn't have what it takes. Frankly, a shocking turn. It comes just a few weeks after Farage travelled to Florida to meet with Musk about possible funding for the party. The two men indeed seem to be very, very close, didn't they? So this has literally just broken, literally minutes ago. We are waiting to hear from Reform. We're trying to get someone from Reform to comment on this, or certainly Nigel himself. A bit of a turn-up for the books. I still have Mail Online reporter Lettice Bramozzi with me and political consultant Emma Burnell. Emma, I'm a bit shocked by this one. It's just come out of the blue, and this, you can see on screen now the actual X post from Elon Musk. As we know, Elon is very active on his own platform. The Reform Party needs a new leader. Farage doesn't have what it takes. And that was literally a couple of minutes ago. What do you make of that?
I'm really trying to keep a straight face. I mean, if you live by the tweet, you die by the tweet, is possibly my initial response. Elon, look, I'm going to say the same thing, in fairness to Reform, as I would have said last week when Elon Musk was tweeting about Jess Phillips or Keir Starmer. Frankly, before Elon Musk was a part of the Trump government, he could say what he wanted. He was a private citizen. He is now running a US government department and should be a little bit more careful about constantly interfering in the politics of another country. And while I personally find this hilarious, I also found the stuff about Jess Phillips really scary and worrying, and the stuff about Keir Starmer bloody stupid. But ultimately, when he's a private citizen, Musk can say what he likes on his own platform. As he is now part of an incoming US administration, I would be more careful.
But the thing is, I mean, there's been lots of interference from this country in American politics. Many Labour cabinet ministers had plenty to say about the politics of America.
And look how much they're having to row back on it now. So I would say that it's in terms of, there is what I have massive opinions about what the politics of America have. I don't have any formal role in the Labour Party. I think, it's perfectly fine before you are in government, possibly when you're trying to be the next government, less fine, to have views. But I just think that there is, a difference between Elon Musk, private citizen, owner of Tesla and X and whatever
Starlink
else
and everything,
yeah.
But we have
having ridiculous views.
I mean, we had Labour Party members going out there to help.
Yeah, Labour Party members have always gone out to help, and as we also had Conservative Party members.
No, I'm saying it both applies on both sides.
Nigel Farage is almost never out of Florida. I'm surprised that this has happened for that reason.
It's very interesting. What do you make of it, Lettice?
This is shocking. This is huge news. This is huge news. Simply because, as well, we've been talking about on this show all the time whether Conservatives and Reform, they're going head-to-head. Farage and Kemi going head-to-head. Farage needed that money that was essentially coming from Musk in order to continue this long campaign and this long march. They might get it other ways.
Farage would say it wasn't about the money, it was about the support.
But it would have been a huge inset for them. I wonder if this has anything to do with Musk's recent comments about Tommy Robinson and saying on Twitter that, he's a political prisoner, which is completely inaccurate. Yeah. He's in prison for contempt of court. Yeah. And we've got to remember that Farage actually left UKIP because of their obsession, that he called it, with Tommy Robinson. So whether Elon Musk was trying to force, now this is just my own opinion of this, force Farage to act a certain way with Tommy Robinson, and he's refused. But this is a classic Elon Musk.
Do you think this is linked to the Tommy Robinson issue, the fact that Elon Musk is a supporter of Tommy Robinson?
That is really the only thing we've seen outright, that these two people, Farage and Musk, have a big disagreement over.
Yeah, and Farage did come out yesterday and said very strongly that he does not support Tommy Robinson. He doesn't want him in the party.
I think it's really important to say, given that we've been focusing on the grooming gang story today, that what Tommy Robinson did and what he's in contempt of court for helped a court case to, put a court case in significant danger.
Just be clear,
that would have convicted the people who we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, he is serving time for contempt of court, nothing
Exactly.
more. He wasn't
Nothing
being silenced.
more.
It
He's
is
not a
contempt of
political
court.
prisoner.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is classic Elon Musk as well. This almost feels like a knee-jerk reaction. It feels like they've just got off the phone and had an argument and he's put a tweet out. I wonder if he might row back on this, there might still be money, or if this really is the end.
OK, lots of you getting in touch about this, understandably. Peter Dooley says it's because Farage is no one's yes man, and he publicly disagreed with Musk about Tommy. Farage isn't strong enough on the issues we have, says Lisa. Meanwhile, CU Jimmy says Elon has now overstepped the mark. Well, this is what Nigel himself had to say yesterday about Musk being involved with reform. Let's have a look.
Could he possibly be a donor to the party? Yes. Is he supportive of the party? Absolutely. Does he support me personally? No question about that. If he does donate money, he'll have to do it legally through a UK company. But I'll tell you something. Whether he donates money to us or not, he makes us, with a young generation of people who view him as a hero figure, he makes us look cool. And I'll tell you what, there isn't much of that around in British politics these days.
Right, OK, but it was about looking cool, it wasn't about the money, and JF says on here, Nigel will care less, to be honest. UK has nothing to do with Musk. But, you know, the challenge posed by reform cannot be overstated. I mean, Farage's party is now the main challenger to Labour in 89 of their seats. Do you think Musk putting this tweet out will make any difference to the support reform have, or will it encourage reform support?
I don't think... From what I understand, reform supporters are quite online. They have an older profile, but they are more online than other people. So this may have more impact than it might do for other parties because they are quite an online group of people. What we're seeing, and it's fascinating, and one of the conversations that we had during the break was, you know, is reform Nigel Farage or is reform? And if we're going to see a sort of showdown between two big right-wing personalities, Elon Musk and Nigel Farage, and if this becomes sort of there can only be one winner, Highlander-style death match, it will be interesting to see where that very online group of people go and if it splinters them.
Yeah, and I think that's important to say, like, reform, just a year ago, Farage wasn't actually even going to be running in the general election. He wasn't going to be part of this. And now he has, and he's continuously said himself that, you know, he could be this gateway to America. He can help whisper in Trump's ear, you know, alongside Peter Mandelson, the new US ambassador that we have there. But if that relationship's broken down completely, are we going to have to rely fully on Labour to take this forward, who've said multiple potentially inappropriate or diplomatically wrong things towards the US government? You know, is that where our reliance lies?
Well, exactly. And as I see it, says on... So please do keep your messages coming in, gbnews.com/your say. You say Musk has always been Frit, always has been. Next, it will be his support for Donald Trump heading south. Be very interested to see what happens. In any case, on Friday, Farage brushed off Musk's support for Tommy Robinson. Let's have a listen to what he had to say then.
He's very supportive of me. He's very supportive of the party. He sees Robinson as one of these people that fought against the grooming gangs. But, of course, the truth is Tommy Robinson's in prison, not for that, but for contempt of court for the third occasion. Different human beings have different points of view on different things. That's fine. I'm relaxed about it.
Be very interesting to see. We haven't heard any more from Reform themselves on this particular issue. But do you think, Lettice, it will affect support for the party?
I'm not sure immediately, but I think there will be knock-on effects from this. I don't think people only voting for reform in this country because Elon Musk has told them to. I do think people have, you know, their own right and their own decisions to support the party because, you know, they do funnel that populist vote, that anti-establishment kind of vote. But I do think without that support and without that money, although Farage denies that money would do anything, it will have an impact on their campaigning levels, on how many MPs they're fielding in constituencies or candidates, they're fielding, and on what they can do when it comes to the general election or even the local elections next year. You know, you do need money in these things. So this will have an impact, but I don't think it's going to change immediately voters' views on reform.
I mean, I think the question is, does that money then go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Or does the money just not come in at all?
He's been speaking a lot about, Elon Musk seems to be supporting all of these, right of conservative parties in different countries. He's been speaking with the
AfD in Deutschland.
Exactly, AfD in Deutschland. He's been speaking, with France and their right party. So he's very supportive of the general cause. So whether that money now he thinks will be better suited...
Doesn't bother with Britain and goes straight into the other
into
EU
he's
countries.
done with us.
I mean, we have seen many Conservative Party members and MPs. I mean, Marco Longhi, who you might say, he lost his Dudley North seat in July, join Reform recently. That's after Dame Andrea Jenkins and Suella Braverman's husband. So they are attracting a lot
And Tim Montgomery, who founded Conservative Home.
Exactly. A lot of experienced Conservative members going to them. So it'll be very interesting to see.
But there's definitely something I think they had to say about how the Conservatives have lost their voice, rather than, again, this growth of reform. There might be support for reform, but a lot of these people are changing because they feel the Conservatives maybe isn't the conservatism that they initially joined. The party has changed. And I think Kemi's got a lot to do with finding the voice of the party again.
Yeah, that's
Which I think she's really struggling with.
I think struggling with because Farage is such an orator.
I mean, I'm not going to claim this is my line. I think I heard it on the FT's podcast. But her New Year message was essentially like a holding, like your call is important to us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could say that Keir Starmer's was vaguely AI generated as well.
Keir
to be honest with you,
was it was a classic New Year's message, didn't say much. But Kemi Badenoch's, came out very, very late. Didn't come out till afternoon on the day, which is unusual if you're trying to get into the news cycle. But also literally just said, watch this space, rather than we're going to have an exciting year where we'll be focused on X, Y and Z, which is basically the generic what you do.
OK, well, we are discussing here the fact that Elon Musk appears to have withdrawn his support for Nigel Farage as leader of Reform Party. It doesn't say that he's withdrawing support for Reform, but he's mentioning that Nigel Farage is not the man to lead that party. Now, many of you are getting such as breaking news, just literally happened on social media worldwide, wouldn't it? On X, obviously. Dave says, well, it would have been nice to have Elon Musk on board, but it's not the end of the world, onwards and upwards. And Nick says, has Mr. Musk been on the Powell cream? I don't know. Is that Baileys? I don't know. But keep your messages coming in. Earlier this week, the father of Elon Musk spoke to GB News and said that Nigel Farage is not a strong man to lead the UK. Here's what he had to say.
I think we have to be more tough here, I suppose. I don't know. We've got irons and everything here. But anyway, no. I look at Farage. I see he talks right. He doesn't look very strong to me. It doesn't particularly look like a strong man to me. You need a very strong man to get England out of the sin. You need a very strong man. And, I don't know if he's the man.
Interesting comments there. What do you think he means by not a strong man, not a strong enough man, Lettuce?
Oh, gosh, I'm not 100% sure, but he clearly doesn't have faith in Farage to take the party through. And whether that's because, Farage does seem to be a sort of lone wolf within the party sometimes. He is leading the party, but if you took Farage away from Reform, what would Reform be? And whether he sees that as the sort of weakness of Reform to be, it's not the party without Farage, and maybe it wouldn't be getting the support it has right now without him.
Actually, that's an interesting point. Do you think it is because people perceive Reform to be the one man, Nigel Farage, and without him,
I think
what is there?
That is the biggest problem that Reform have. When I manage teams, I constantly talk about making sure that everything's in the shared drive. Put it in the shared drive. And the phrase I always use, up to the point where someone asked if I was going to push them under a bus, is, what would I do if you fell under a bus tomorrow? And I think Reform really have that problem in that they are very much perceived, not just as a one-man band, but when you think about the other person you've heard of from Reform, which, if he's lucky, is Richard Tice, not only was Richard Tice not seen as dynamic enough, but was seen as so undynamic that Nigel Farage had to step in during the election campaign, take it all back over. So the number two isn't even waiting in the wings.
OK, right, let's just read some of your comments out. Andy says Musk needs to confirm this. Well, we are just going on what is on his social media platform. And ATG says, I know where Musk is coming from. I really want reform to do well, but that is my fear too. He needs to wake up to the things not pertaining only to the influential, but to the plight of our Tommy Robinson, for example. Lots of you are thinking it is linked to the disagreement over Tommy Robinson. Meanwhile, Poundland Shopper says Musk is trolling you and the mainstream media. I had to check it wasn't April the 1st. Well, OK, let's see what happens, won't we?